name is Jeff Wallace. I'm 46 years old and I grew up in the Quad Cities, and specifically in Davenport, Iowa. When you think of prison, you think of rehabilitation. A lot of times you think of being able to get out and honestly get back where you were. But in fact, that's what you don't want to do. And a lot of men come in broken men. A lot of men come in with a lot of trauma, and they've never been rehabilitated to begin with. So rehabilitating them is something that it doesn't really work with them. So instead, what I was focused on was, all right, I'm here. How do I sort of catapult myself in a position to be successful? I can create and forge a whole new future for myself. So enrolling in college, continuing to interact with people that were positive, continuing to seek and obtain employment, understanding that my employment was not going to be a high-paying job outright, but it would teach me the skills and develop the habits that I, in fact, never had before, which is showing up to work every day, interacting with people in a respectful way. In prison, there's a lot of times there's a level of respect where you have to be sort of a man amongst men, and you don't tolerate any level of disrespect. So, but out here in this world, being able to sort of distinguish the ideal of, well, yeah, I mean, people are going to talk the way they talk, but it doesn't necessarily deserve a physical and a violent reaction. How did I arrive to Safer Foundation? You know, that's actually a really good question, because I arrived coming to Safer Foundation because I had spent a large part of my youth in prison. And so while I was in prison, I spent a long time in solitary confinement as well. But one of the things that happens when you're in prison, especially if you do a lot of time in solitary confinement, is they want to be able to make sure that when you leave somewhat successful. And so as a result, there were things that in classes that I was put into where we talked about, you know, what goes into getting a job, getting our identification, sort of adjusting to the differences that were going to be occurring. Because when I had went in, I'd say altogether, it was about 6 years, and then 4 years prior to that I was in juvenile facility. So me stepping out now at age 24 was kind of like one of the jokes that was said commonly was, hey, by the time, you know, I get out, there's going to be spaceships, you know? So it's kind of like a long time, a lot of changes, and that was one of the things that happened. So they sort of prepped us, and a lot of the prisoners, and while for me it was the first time I had been in prison, a lot of the prisoners had actually, that was in there with me, had been in it multiple times. You know, the revolving door, coming in, going out, coming in, going out. And they would say to me, the ones that were from my area, hey, you know, what you want to do is you want to get with Safer Foundation. They're going to help you get a job. They're going to help you get a good job. I got out 1998. And the first thing I did that week was come meet with my parole officer, and he laid out the expectations, and I took a beeline straight over to Safer Foundation. Went in, they assessed my skills. They wanted to know a little bit about what was it that I needed to do, what did I want to do. They wanted to know a little bit about me and how long I had been in, and they went through a bit of a background conversation about the skills that I had and what was I going to be able to do and so forth. And being so young, I had limited skills. So started working at the same facility that I volunteered at, that I was housed at, and I did that for almost 10 years. And during that 10-year span, I rose to become a supervisor, a manager, and I ended up started to actually hire the staff who ended up working with the kids, and then eventually I went on to become a social worker for the state. And then while I'm doing that, I'm working at other different juvenile facilities and conducting different types of consulting and stuff related to behavior management and professional development. And then eventually at some point, after leaving the job as a state social worker, I went on to actually get employed with Safer Foundation. And it was ironic the way that I was employed by Safer Foundation, because as I walked into the interview, I noticed that the person who was interviewing me, she actually was one of my counselors when I was a youngster on probation. I was asked to get on the board of the advisory board of Safer Foundation, which Absolutely, without a doubt. I know the work that Safer does. I know the opportunities that Safer gives people who otherwise are never going to be given a chance. And I also know that part of who I am and who I became from somebody who always took and always made sure that I tried to get over on people as a youngster was that I now needed to give. And this is another example and an extension of giving, giving, and giving, not with the expectation of receiving, but with the expectation that somehow, some way, something that I give is going to be useful to somebody. So I find it to be rewarding. I find it to be exceptionally encouraging to know that people are doing the same work to give somebody an opportunity like I was when I first stumbled out the prison's gates, a confused 24-year-old who just didn't want to go back to prison. Everybody changes. You can change. And if you take the time to change and you give someone a chance, an opportunity, you'll be surprised by what they can do.